Hey, much awaited review on the Doogee DG150 Titans ruggedized, water-resistant, shockproof cell phone. Well, we'll say ruggedized cell phone, and the claims on shockproof and waterproof don't go scuba diving or throw it off a cliff, but if you drop it off a table or something like that, use it in a rugged military environment or construction site environment, I think you're going to be just fine. Use it in the rain, I think you're going to be just fine. The money on these things is a little bit variable depending on where you buy it. This is a foreign market cell phone, although the packaging is in English. It's a Chinese phone for the foreign market. And the foreign market phones, one of the big differences with their phones, let's say compared to U.S. market phones, even though all other features may be very similar, is, and just to be clear, this is a battery bank, not the phone. One of the things that's going to be very unique about something that's primarily a foreign market phone is that they're quite often going to be set up to take multiple SIM cards. And the reason is that phones sold in the United States are usually set up to only work with a single carrier. And what happens is when you activate a phone in the United States, whether it's a prepaid type phone or you purchase and use a phone, when you get it activated, that phone is married to that carrier. The carrier companies in the United States that operate their own cell towers tend to have roaming agreements and contracts where if you get outside of the carrier zone for your own cell phone company, they will allow the usage of another company's cell phone towers, and you never notice the difference in a conversation, or it switches over to roaming. So you've got some larger companies like Verizon that maintain a lot of the towers and then rent that usage to the other companies. On a foreign market, that's not the case. A lot of times that the carrier service and tower networks are specific to that company, and they don't necessarily share any kind of a contract agreement with the others, especially when you travel country to country where there's a much larger difference between traveling country to country as opposed to traveling state to state in the United States. There can be actual functional differences between the way those cell phone carriers function. And that's why a lot of the foreign market phones, especially those that had been engineered for the Chinese market, are set up to take more than one SIM card inside. If you need education on what a SIM card is or how they work, I suggest you do a Google search and look at other people's articles and videos. This particular one is a little tricky to take apart in that you have to undo these two screws and then hinge this cover plate up. Remove the battery, and that will give you an exposure to the slots for two SIM cards plus one micro SD memory card. Now, you don't necessarily need the micro SD memory card on this, but I believe this only comes with either 4 or 8 gigs worth of internal memory, which you're going to run through relatively quickly if you're doing a lot of intensive data usage storage, capable of photo and video, but you're going to run through that. You could add the memory card and go up to 32 gigs worth of memory. So with this phone having the dual SIM card capability, one of the big bonuses you can do on this is you could have two separate phone numbers. However, one thing I've noticed is that the two SIM card slots are made to work with slightly different carrier services, the details of which I'm not going to go over in the video, but I purchased, for testing purposes, a SIM card from T-Mobile because they have a relatively good pay-as-you-go plan where you can purchase the SIM card, and then if you don't use the phone on a particular day, it doesn't charge you for that day. So it's $2 a day, unlimited usage. This thing goes 3G data. So with $2 a day of unlimited usage on the days that you can use it, there's an option here which happens, you can actually block. Here I have that SIM card in slot 1. There's also I have it in slot 2. When I put it in slot 1, the phone freaked out and started doing a bunch of stuff in Chinese. So I moved it over to slot 2. It seemed to work fine. So what happens is, if I'm within range of Wi-Fi, this phone will function as a Wi-Fi phone. If I wish to use the phone service and activate it for a particular day, I can go into the control menu and activate the SIM card for that particular day. Because a lot of apps may activate or go through data services on their own, you can manually block data, which is one of the ways that you could keep that thing from charging you for a particular day. That's a little bit specific to the T-Mobile system, but fortunately that's kind of built into the phone. So right now when it says no service, it's because I've been able to get into the phone's control panel and turn off the SIM card. So once you install a SIM card, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's using it. I would discuss security issues and questions later on. Here you can see that you can manually control whether or not Wi-Fi and Bluetooth are activated, and of course whether or not you're activating the SIM cards or the other type stuff. You do have a tethering and portable hotspot. However, the way these things are going to work on that, it's 3G maximum. So if I'm going to use this, let's say for example with the iPad, I would probably keep that usage kind of limited and not expect to be able to do full-length videos on this. Now, doing videos over the cell system, a little bit limited, but it's actually quite possible. Doing that over Wi-Fi seems to not have any problem at all. And what I've noticed is that the screen on this really is exactly the same size and touch style as the older style iPhones. And so kind of interesting in that it seems to be that they're actually sourcing some of their parts that may have once been used for Apple. That's an iPod that I showed, but it a lot of similarities on this type of stuff. Really basic Google, but they've designed their own interface to be kind of cool looking as far as the Titans go. And the overall design of the case is something like you would expect, somebody who's maybe a gamer would really appreciate. There's also a yellow-orange version of this that would go well with somebody, let's say, who carries Bear Grylls survival gear on their everyday carry. Of course, it'll use all of the normal Google apps, and of course has its own styling on the icons, but that's just fine. The other big advantage is that you can permanently install Skype on this and use Skype within range of Wi-Fi, and it still functions as a phone. You can do a lot of functionality with this. Other stuff that's going to come in the box is going to be a small compass with a lanyard attachment that can actually attach to the case. But given that this phone has a GPS built into it, I have to wonder if you need to carry a cheap little button compass as a backup attached to a GPS, and you got problems. Okay, you probably somebody's doubting the reliability of equipment. Although it's kind of a neat little styling add-on, I don't think I'd really want that. I don't want this thing scratching up on a screen. It's kind of nice that they give you a screen protector on it when you get it out of the box, and then they give you another screen protector so you can change the screen protectors and add another one later on. The other stuff you'll get in the box, of course, is an AC, the USB adapter. This particular one came with the European style and then had a little US style one that snaps on top of it that I promptly lost. You get the micro SD charging cord, which is relatively standard to a lot of stuff, and you get a small headphone assembly. Now, one of the other features this thing has on it is an FM radio. But when I went to use the FM radio, it notified me that you actually have to plug in the headphones in order to use the FM radio because it uses the headphones as the antenna. Kind of an interesting thing. Of course, you also get this little lanyard here, which I believe goes with a pouch. Now, there's been a promotional deal at Banggood.com that includes these pouches. I'm going to put a link in the video for these to come from Amazon. If you order it from Amazon, you're not going to get the pouch, and you're going to spend slightly more money for the phone. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, this is available on the Amazon Prime shipping system, which means that you would be able to get the phone within a day or two very quickly to whatever address you designate on there. So it's possible to get one of these things pretty quickly in your hands for, I think, around $100 or $115 or something from Amazon. If you want to pay the lower price and get a couple little add-ons, you would order it from Banggood or one of the Chinese retailers, but here's the problem. They're getting fucked with in customs. And I don't know why. Nobody's going to give me an answer. But even paying for the extra airmail service and registered mail service, it took 3 weeks to get here. And that gets into subjects of my next video, which is security concerns when using smartphones and Google phones in particular.